Yo, 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 what's good? It's your boy Desert Fox coming at you again with another video of Wargame Red Dragon Ash and Shadows mod. Yes, today we're going to showcase defense in our battle tactics vid of a wargame. When you're doing defense, a lot of times it's good to use the natural environment. We are going to showcase that using Fox's War and the starter deck on medium. So let's get to it. Gunbun Diplomacy is a okay map to show defense, because I think it's kind of wide open, but it also has some very natural barriers that you can be cognizant of your defense. So in defense, the best place to the best way to use defense is using the natural terrain, right? Natural choke points, can get a lot of kills. You can see the enemy coming. Obviously, are going to be these bridges. So securing or being able to maneuver on any of these bridges is going to be key for your defense. If you notice between you over here at Charlie and the enemy at Alpha, he's got a better defensive barrier for like if he put ATGM units in his building or if he has units here. And then also when you get to this position here, if you don't have recon, these buildings and reverse slope defense make a very natural ambushing position to this road. So it might not be advantageous to just roll up here. It's probably just easy to roll that way. Obviously, the fight is going to be centered around for us a hotel, because taking it gives you 8 points per second in the game, and that's pretty significant considering you start with two bases. They start with two bases, so you could potentially double the output of your army point wise from your starting your points. So that's very nice. With defense, I also believe that range is key. ATGM units is key, um, and being flexible is also very important. So range units, and another thing that I don't see a lot of people do with their range units, they will maybe park all their units on the line. But sometimes it's good to, if you know you're going to have to defend that position for a while, to cycle them back and forth. So maybe one ATGM unit will be in the buildings here, and another one will be back here, patiently waiting. So when he runs out, the forward guy runs out, he can run back and switch. And then your Hammett can be back here to kind of hold the defense. Also, that's good in case, let's say, your infantry gets knocked out by artillery. It makes a very staunch defense, because the enemy might think, oh, I just took him out in advance. And you've got another guy waiting right behind him. Actually, we'll take the Delta Force over here. We're going to flood these forests with the highly effective and very mobile Delta Force. We will also do a lot of tank action, because the tanks, I use them. They have a really good range, but we'll also accompany them with some Puma action for wing fire support. Also probably take some Leclerco with it. And these guys, they're there. We might accompany them with some long range Mephistos. And of course, recon. Recon, I think, in defense is more important, because if the enemy's maneuvering, you can maneuver with his forces, right? We have 500 more points, so what we're going to do is, with the choke points, we're going to see if we can get the enemy caught up on the choke point and then bombard them. With that, we also probably will take, we'll get him later. We'll probably take a Patriot to keep the enemy Air Force at bay. That's another thing. In defense, it is absolutely crucial to keep the enemy's Air Force at bay, because them bombing defensive positions is how they're going to break and stun your units if they do end up doing a well-timed assault, right? So we're going to get these guys moving, probably to the center there. Have one bombarding guy. Very nice. And then we're going to have our tusks come out here and defend. You notice each tank has a supporting AA unit to protect it from aircraft. And we're going to have our Patriots move forward. So I'll put you here. Come on. And see what you guys will go out to the left. So we're gonna set our infantry up at hotel and do the rotating portion that I talked about. That way that we can cover a lot and kind of keep that defense for a while. We also, because if you think your ATGM units are going to run out pretty quickly from extensive fighting if they're constantly being attacked. So that's something to think about. Let's have him go there. We're gonna kind of dig in here and just kind of wait to ambush the enemy. The whole time, it might seem quiet that we're dug in, but we're actually just gonna recon to see what we can see with our super stealthy recon. And hopefully the enemy comes to us. Side shots of the day. Killed an 87-point tank. Very nice. So you see the enemy has airplanes already lined up. We should have... Of course, I don't know where our Patriots are. Oh, that's very interesting. Micro error on my part. Our Patriots are all the way in the back. And they're supposed to be forward. So, again, see, that's why it's so important. My units are dug in, but the Patriots should, if they're moving up, should be able to deny access to half the map from the enemy. I don't know why I selected and told them to go there, but it is what it is. There's a large swath of the enemy, so we see where his units are concentrated. Maybe we could shoot him down. Already our Delta 4s are popping certain units there. Very good. So it doesn't bode well though if the enemy has artillery, but it does bode well if he falls back, gets replenished by the Hemet, and another one leapfrogs forward, kind of keeping that good defense. We're gonna have our Puma kind of scat out to the right. We got our tusks here on the bridge, covering that choke point, which is gonna really make it hard for the enemy to cross without smoking out or bombarding this location. We're also gonna so as the enemy figures out what he wants to do, we're gonna kind of dig in here, but we're also going to take this point here so we can get more points, and then we're gonna see if we can showcase our air power into keeping the enemy at bay to the best of our ability. We see what I believe was gonna tell him to evac. He's shooting some. He did get hit. But we do see the enemy coming, and we did pop the buck. So what we're also gonna do is gonna have him cycle back and forth and see if he can pop targets of interest. Weasel's already dropping large diameter bombs on the enemy, and even though this Abrams got hit by the bombs, he's very tough. So these natural choke points and knowing where the enemy is going to attack from is good for us, and the long range of our Abrams is good. And now as the Weasel cycles in and out, he's going to be launching bombs at range and shooting targets of interest while he does it. So you notice this guy, he's got missiles. They're about halfway out. So now that they're about halfway out, I'm going to start moving him into position and preparing to get this guy out. So I have him reload his missiles there. You have about 1,000 points of damage, or 1,800, I should say, and no losses. We are doing a pretty effective job. Let's see if we can scout forward with our units. Taking some pot shots at the enemy's Tunguska units. And we'll also be able to call in another one of these weasels to cycle in and out for any long range targets of interest. He's calling in bucks pretty regularly, but remember those things are 85 a pop. And I think he just dropped a large diameter bomb just because he's in view of his diameter bomb. So this recon and the ability to cycle your diameter bombs in and out and being able to see units is highly effective with advanced keys. So we'll take another recon out to the wing because that's what we want to do. And we want to protect our flanks from chopper rushes to the outside. That Japanese chopper is pretty good for that. So the weasel's getting shot at by the buck there. But before he went, he popped that command vehicle and another light vehicle. So as it stands right now, we have 2,000 points of damage to the enemy and no losses. Because we're dug in like a tick. And we're using the natural choke points for the enemy that has to cross. He probably could be way more effective if he used smoke. So how do you now attack the choke points? Well, I believe you have to attack at an angle. If the enemy is protecting this one and this one, you probably should attack here. And this is where your HEILO-born units come into play. Now, this is another thing. His units, as they cross, even if it's a computer or a human player, the fact that the previous vehicles slow down his vehicles makes this a crapshoot for his units having to break through. So this bridge is effectively knocked out because of his vehicles, and that's very powerful for defense. That's also something to think about if you go on the offensive. These bridges are effectively knocked out because all these vehicles are gonna muddy up the road and make it hard for you to cross. This bridge is good to cross though for your infantry. So ATGM units to kind of force the enemy back are good. Like Delta Force is excellent for that. There's some other ATGM units, or accompany Delta Force with supporting units like the SAS who have manpads, or these guys who have rockets and manpads. So we're gonna call some of those in to see if we can't. You notice this Delta Force is full. This Delta Force has got full, and instead of going directly in here, we are going to kind of stack our Delta Force up and gonna take the wing and cross to the left here and go after Juliet. We know that it's kind of clear because we've kind of recon that position. So we're gonna attack with speed where the enemy should be the weakest. The tools for the job are gonna be our AMXs. Call a couple of those and some Mephistos because we have points to do that, as well as support units. The enemy does have a large swath of tanks coming. We're gonna try to bomb those tanks as they enter the town there. So he does have a in defense, your force multipliers like your Air Force are going to be super crucial. Right, like your bombers, your Air Force. Why are they important? Because they can go back and they don't have to expend a lot of energy. What do I mean by energy? So when they go back home, they refuel and you can use them almost indefinitely. Right? Tanks, they need to be refueled, reloaded, stuff like that. Artillery. What you get for them is way more valuable than what you lose as regards to logistics and speed and stuff like that. The enemy's all clogged up here. making it a pretty juicy target for our bombers here. And some people might say this is a cheap way to play, but this is how you defend an area. You use a natural environment to do it. So bombs away. Tank's gone. Very nice. So we're gonna cross over here. And again, we've taken out 3,265 points, and we've defended our swath of the of this area. So we're gonna advance with our units just to cover our guys. Gonna come from him from an angle and support him with the anti-air units. But as you can see, we're not attacking where the enemy is expecting. We're attacking where he probably least expects us to attack. At an angle. In defense, that's kind of how you can catch your enemy off guard, is kind of attacking him where he least expects you to be. We'll have the image reload this guy since he's did such a good job. The Delta Force is taking the whole bridge, these two bridges, cutting them off, which is good. And as the enemy launches his attack here, he can't break through because he has to attack down this choke point. So how, ideally, if you had to attack, would you do this? Well, you'd have to almost smoke this whole area and get in close with the enemy. It'd be a bloodbath, but it could be done. You'd have to smoke the front part and then maybe RD or air attack this area to soften up the enemy. It'd have to be coordinated, very well coordinated. It really would. It's doable, but it would have to be coordinated pretty well. So we've effectively crossed this half of the bridge, right? Our tusks are refueled and reloaded. The Delta Force is going to cross here, supported by the Abrams. And we're going to call in a chopper or command vehicle. So as we advance on the left here, most of our units are ready to go. We're going to get them in an attack formation. For when they station, we'll just tell them to attack forward. We'll give our Delta Force advanced orders. Pretty nice. So we're all the way across the bridge. And then because this is an entrenched position of the enemy, we will bombard kind of in this general vicinity because we're not sure. So let's see if the infantry can cross. Doesn't look like there's not even a gap for the infantry to cross. So the enemy now knows we're here. See when the artillery is coming in. That's okay. So you see how we have our tanks forward with supporting and the that stuff. We're all gonna attack the enemy in a kind of a pincer over the hill into the bridge, with the Delta Force taking the forest area there. These guys are true in case the enemy decides to spawn a whole bunch of choppers. And the Cobra is supporting the Abrams in case of choppers as well. Have our Abrams cross the so as we advance on the enemy's position there, we're gonna roll his left flank. He might suspect. He might launch a counterattack here, but we have our Abrams coming to support that. He's got some main battle tanks coming. We won't take that fight. We will come at him with a range. Those units didn't have very good stabilizers. They actually had the jump on us, but his units didn't have stabilizers. So if you notice, I kited the enemy with my mobile forces. I pulled them back, and these guys, if they advance, we're gonna get them in the flanks. That's why it's kind of good to pincer, because you have a two-part. Now look, if you notice, the enemy just launched all these choppers. I'm gonna have him back up and these guys advance. We've got the range on the enemy, but that's kind of why I put him out on the wings, because sometimes, you know, the guy could chopper rush, the computer could chopper rush, and you know those guys are we're already set up for it. So those choppers are gonna get slaughtered in a dogfight. I actually need some supporting units for the Abrams so that they can advance. Actually, you guys go over here, please. So we're going to continue to tell our Delta Force to advance all the way to the enemy position. And we're actually going to set up our fast-moving force in a... But I'm not worried. See, the enemy choppers, although they are in range, they're accounted for by our support, so you don't have to even be at a fight to kind of engage the enemy. We have taken almost 6,000 points of the enemy out. But what we will do is we'll stack our tanks and vehicles on the bridge there, and we'll prepare for an assault. It is kind of telegraphing, but the enemy should be distracted enough with our assault over here and it not really factor in too much. Actually, take you, bring you up here, please. Thank you. So we're just gonna kind of left hook the enemy into submission using our superior forces. Now this is going to be more of a diversionary force to try to draw the enemy's troops forward at India. If we can draw them forward at India, then it kind of, they come forward, that leaves my real objective open to attack. So that's kind of what we want to do. Actually, let's go this way, please. And showcase our Air Force. We'll actually bring them in and cycle them in and out. Push them back on the bridge. Delta Force is loading on the enemy. He's a little far ahead. And there we go. So, outstanding defense then translates into good offense. No losses there, 18 minutes, 6,000 points of damage to the enemy. Honorable mentions all around. Good teamwork, good balance, no micro errors, and a dominating performance from us. Honorable mentions really are the TUS, the Delta Force, and the Recon. The Recon doesn't get a lot of kills, but it makes everything possible because you can see where you can maneuver and where you can't. The Aardvark taking out all the tanks, using the natural terrain to your advantage is very good. So all in all, just good gameplay. Glad you guys got to witness it. If you like what you saw, like, comment, and subscribe. This is your boy Desert Fox signing off. Have a good day and goodbye.